Painting stuff?
Right. Amateur radio.
Wow.
Right. Music. I play the ukulele, so I'm practicing hard because I play for a group.
Wow.
I like photography, cooking, baking.
No quiet moments.
Yeah, and then don't forget my art class.
That's true. Yes.
So a day goes very quickly.
I'm sure.
In fact, I'll show you. I've just finished 2 paintings. See what.
Come on, let's have a look.
Right, that's a commission painting for somebody.
Wow, that's nice. That's very nice.
That's somebody's dog. You see that one?
Trying to think what it is.
2 deer in
deer.
long grass.
Beautiful. Very good. It's creative.
So
very creative. No quiet moment. Good morning, Neville. I can see your mouth saying hello.
So you see, I'm always busy, always something to do.
Yes. Good things to do.
And then I learn, you see, I learn with you. Some days I've got things with the rabbi from shul. We have meetings on Monday afternoons, Tuesday afternoons.
Good. Very
on
good.
Zoom. We've got the book club from shul.
Fabulous. Very good. Fantastic stuff. Good things are happening. I'm glad to hear.
Yes, I know you're busy all the time.
Good things. Now, well, how was the M60 Friday night? Around the M60, what was it called?
M60, what happened there?
They had a north and south. Never, you're on mute.
Don't think about that.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
There you go.
Yes. No,
it's somebody else.
They got about 75 people, 75 viewers, 75 logins, and yeah, it was very good. The Chazan at Yeshurun, he played the piano, which on a pre-Kabbalat Shabbat or mock Kabbalat Shabbat is very unusual. Not seen it before, so it's quite nice.
I'm sure. And Rabbi Rickman got involved as well, of course, with singing and stuff.
Of course. Yeah. He sings as well. He always sings. So they've got a way that he'll say something or sing something, and when he's ready, he'll put his hand up, and that's the signal for the other guy to carry on. So they've got a way of doing it, which is which makes it joined up for.
Wow.
So it went well.
You can't really both sing together on Zoom, I think, because it's always like a half set and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but that's why if you put your hand up, you're a chazan, you put your hand up and said, right, that's me done, my section, you carry on, then it sort of works.
Amazing. Beautiful. With the piano. Orthodox students with the piano.
Yeah, very unusual. And their rabbi spoke as well. A young guy, clean shaven, unusual, but very nice. And then he said he comes from, obviously they're South Manchester, and they're talking about how can we bridge the north-south divide. And he says he loves coming to Prestwich and Salford. Yeah, he said it's like coming to Torah Town.
You've been upgraded. This is where it is. Mini Jerusalem.
It's a lovely phrase, Torah Town. You must be very proud, maybe.
Torah Town.
I'm not sure the rabbis over here would appreciate that kind of quote.
Right, Torah Town. It's it's the holy place. Holy place.
Oh, very good. 1 second. You need to use the computer. We have to connect it. Connect the screen. You need to use the computer. Morning, David. Welcome aboard. Oh, his audio is still connecting. I think we're going to get started. David, good morning.
Morning, Rabbi Levi. How are you?
Welcome aboard. Come along. Baruch Hashem, we're great. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good.
Fantastic. Sinks are working out, kosher and all.
Yep, they are.
I love it. Fantastic. Very, very good. Great, enormous progress. 1 second. So Hamish, where are you going to sit? No problem. Very good. Fantastic. Okay, everyone's in the right place. Good morning. Good morning. We're going to do a little bit of a screen share again, and we're going to put some of the text up on the board. Before we do that, we're going to talk about what's going on the Jewish calendar this week. Today is the the last day of the month before Rosh Chodesh, because tonight and tomorrow night and Tuesday will be the beginning of the next Jewish month. Which month are we getting into? The month of Tammuz. So it's an exciting time, Rosh Chodesh. In the times of the Beis Hamikdash, they would literally bring festive offerings in the Beis Hamikdash every new month. And the Jewish calendar means a very lot to us. That's how we know when it's Yom Tov, and that's how we know how to celebrate the important days of the calendar. So Rosh Chodesh in itself is a special time. Traditionally, going back to the times of the Mishnah and throughout the ages, the day before Rosh Chodesh was known as Yom Kippur Katan, mini Yom Kippur. So today, with it being the closer of the month, before the month finishes, Erev Rosh Chodesh, it would be a time of stock taking. How did the month go by? And before we go into the next month, let's think about what we can do better in the month to come. So it's almost like an encouragement where we take ourselves a little bit more seriously. So that's today, the special time. If you're looking for an opportunity to a growth spurt, now's a good time. Then we have, in addition to that, on the Chabad calendar, the recent Chabad calendar, Wednesday night, Thursday is the yahrzeit of the Rebbe, making this year be 26 years since 1994. And it's again, of course, it's a special time. And it's a time where we take the life gifts that the Rebbe gave to the world, and we try and live with that and make it help us be even more productive, more inspired to do more good things and keep on growing. So that's again a big day on this week's calendar. Two big things. We're then going to look at what's going on in the Parshah, and then we'll pick one area of the Parshah to try and make a relevant, practical life message for this week. So this week's Parshah is Parshah's Korach. It's interesting that the name of the Parshah already is the name of somebody. He wasn't one of our heroes in Jewish teachings. There are a number of Parshas like that. Not many, but you have a number of Parshas that the name of the Parshah is the name of something that we learn what not to do. Yeah, some people you learn how yes to behave, and from some people you learn how not to behave. Korach was one of those fellows who took it the wrong way. He himself was a tremendous Torah scholar. He was one of the biggies, if you like, and he had also enormous wealth. So he was very wealthy, and he was a very prominent Torah scholar, but unfortunately, it didn't help him. If anything, it turned him the wrong way. How so? Because he staged a rebellion against Moshe. And he said, Moshe Rabbeinu, enough. Why are you making yourself so special, stand out? Why are you considering yourself the most important person? Everybody's the same. Kala Eda Kulam Kadoshim. Everybody deserves equal rights. And if you look at the different commentaries, they explain he had a good argument. His argument was, nobody needs to have an excuse to talk to Hashem. We are all Hashem's children. And therefore, why do we need to have a leader? Why do we need to have you, Moshe? Who made you the king? The answer is, who made him the king? The answer is Hashem, which is why he was definitely wrong. He was doomed to failure because it was appointed by Hashem. That was the background of what was going on. And unfortunately, the parasha talks about eventually the earth literally opened up and swallowed him and his family alive. That was the only way Moshe could quell the rebellion. Only after that is, Moshe Rabbeinu first tried to negotiate. Try to call him to come around, let's discuss it between you and I. Let's not make this a public thing. There's too much emotion involved. And then when he refused to do that, Moshe Rabbeinu tried to impress upon him in a way that it shouldn't spread further. But as it started to snowball and get harder and harder to control, Hashem said to Moshe, this is it. We cannot allow this to continue. And before we have the end of the story where they get punished, there was already the start of where it started snowballing. It was that Korach overnight, one of the tricks Moshe used was, let's wait till tomorrow morning. Let's discuss this in the morning, sleep over it, let things calm down. Unfortunately, by the next morning, there was 250, prominent people in the community who turned around to Moshe and said, we're special. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, there's only one Kohen Gadol. There's one high priest. If you each consider yourself special, I'm going to allow you to try it. Try and do what only the Kohen Gadol is supposed to do. What's that? Try bring the keteris. Try and offer up the incense. Try and bring up the most important offering to Hashem and see what happens. But I'm warning you, if you do it in the wrong way around, it could be very dangerous. And unfortunately, the next morning, 250 people passed away. 250 people who each one of them thought themselves to be a prominent member of the community and had the audacity to bring the keteres as if they were trying to replace the appointment of the Kohen Gadol. Instead of Aaron being the Kohen Gadol, they were taken instead, and they all passed away. And then after that was the story where the earth opened up and swallowed Korach, and it was clear to everybody that Moshe wasn't playing games. It wasn't like he was trying nepotism where he was trying to take care of it, keep it in the family and look after himself. No, everything was being appointed by Hashem, and messing with that would be very, very severe. And the Parshah continues that Hashem wanted to insist on making another sign, another test, so to speak, to prove to everybody that Aaron was right. What was that? That was a test of the staffs, where each tribe, their leader, brought forth their staff, their walking stick, their stick, and they were all placed inside the overnight. And Aaron's was made sure to be placed in the middle. It shouldn't be close to one side, shouldn't be close to another side. And all the sticks were there inside the Kodesh HaKodashim. They brought it out in the morning. Only one of them had blossomed overnight. Overnight, it blossomed and started growing off a dead stick. And the idea was it would be a miracle that would demonstrate that Hashem had chosen this particular stick or tribe, and that was the tribe of Levi. It was Aaron's stick that blossomed. Okay, let me just mute everybody. Good point. Anyone who wants to unmute at any time, sure can. Just push yourself down mute. Thank you, Jeff, for putting that out. So we have here the end of the Parsha, though, is that the people start complaining again. They've just seen how Hashem has proven Moshe, proven Aaron with an additional test, and they start complaining. What they say is that the keteres is killing people. And it's all terrible. Every move we make, we get a little bit into a bad mood and we do something wrong, boom, we're dying. There's no way we can survive. And Hashem's like, hold on 1 second. No. You don't die because you got into a bad mood. We die if we rebel. And a plague breaks out. Now Moshe tells Aaron, this is your chance to show everybody that actually the keteres, this tremendous, important offering, doesn't kill people. It's just very potent. Use the keteres to stop the plague. Bring an offering to Hashem and show the people that through keteres, not only will people pass away, but hey, you'll save people's lives. And he does. And everyone's like, wow. Aaron quickly goes and offers the keteres to Hashem, and he does so in the middle of where people are in the plague. People are dying, and he literally stops the Malach HaMamas, the angel of death, in his tracks. Rashi is a beautiful dialogue between Aaron and the angel of death. He says, Aaron comes to the angel of death, offers the keteres, says, I demand in the merit of the offering I've just made that you stop killing people. And the angel of death says, what do you mean? I've been sent here on a mission by Hashem to create death. So Aaron says, no, but I'm on a mission from Moshe Rabbeinu to stop the death. So the angel of death says to Moshe, to Aaron, should I listen to Hashem, who's told me to kill people? Or should I listen to Moshe, who's told me to save people? What should I do? Who are you supposed to listen to? Of course you listen to Hashem. Says Aaron, no. Moshe Rabbeinu would never tell me to do anything unless that's what Hashem wants. And therefore, it must be the right thing. Come, let's go together and ask Moshe and Hashem to what they should do. They come back in the merit of the incense of the keteres that is brought, and Hashem says, yes, indeed. In the merit of the incense, I've changed and I've forgiven the people, and therefore he stopped the plague that way. Unbelievable midrash that Rashi quotes and explains what was going on. And that was the end of the Parshah, though, that after he manages to do the test and save the people, they have the gifts that the people should continue to give to the Kohanim, A, to support those who are in service, and B, also it's a way that they can remind themselves. We as people, as humans, when we give somebody a gift, we start to care about them more. It's more in the front center of our mind, and that's why in this week's Parashah, the end of the Parashah, is the different gifts that the people would give to the Kohanim, such as the first teruma of when grain grows, or when you have wine, or when you have a firstborn sheep, or cattle, etc. A whole bunch of gifts that would be given to the Kohanim. It would support them, and also it would keep in check. It would remind us that we care about them. We need them, and their appointment is an appointment of Hashem, and that's our connection point. That's the parsha of Parshas Korach in a nutshell. The loaded parsha. It's actually dramatic. There's a lot of good things that go on there. But we're going to try and pick on one particular area and try and walk away with a relevant message for today. In order to do that, the question that this particular discussion discusses is that we look around and we see people who seem to be predisposed to growth. Some people have an easier time becoming better. They're just doing well and they're going better and better. They always seem to be getting things right. I'm going to put a screen share on here because what we're going to discuss here is a few quotes from the Parshah. Few quotes from the Parshah that are going to help us appreciate that everybody can become better. Not everyone can become better. Each one of us should try to grow, even when it looks like it's very hard for us. And the truth is that there are certain areas that we struggle. Personally, I struggle more than somebody else struggles to be able to grow in. And that's honestly true to say that for me to become better in this area and to become stronger in this point is more difficult than for other people. However, although it's true that it's more difficult for me, everybody has an area where they need to struggle in. So though I look at somebody and say, look how easy it is for him to be a healthy whatever, or to go and to pursue his dreams, whatever it might be, do more mitzvahs, or learn Torah. And it's so easy for them. For me, it's such a struggle. But the truth is they must have their area of struggle. And what we're saying is, just like we can see somebody else having an easier time and doing it, getting it done, that has to inspire us to say that in my area, I can also. Yes, I can. And that's what we want to look at this week's Parsha and address the areas that I find most difficult to pursue, to push, even though I know I want to, and be able to look at them and say to myself, yes, I can. But before we get there, we're going to be devil's advocate. We're going to learn the other side. We're going to seem to say that there are people who have an easier time and people have a harder time doing what's right. Because when we look around, oftentimes we get that feeling. So we're gonna validate it, and we're gonna learn it in the Torah, and it's gonna seem like, at least in the beginning, that that's true, because there is truth to it. There are areas that are more challenging for me than for anyone else. Here we want to build on it and then say that although it seems to be the case, actually there is something we can do to unleash, to unlock a deeper side of me, and in that side we can smash every goal that we need to, although it's challenging. That's the general gist. In simple words, we're looking to walk away today with motivation. We're looking to walk away today to be uplifted. If anyone has any comments, questions, or suggestions to make at any time, please unmute yourself. But in the meantime, I'm going to go along with the text here. So we have here in text 1a, 1b, and 1c, a text of the story that we just mentioned. We're not going to read them inside, but I'm just going to put them on the board here. This is the story of Korach, with his whole family lineage, and how he starts off the rebellion, and he manages to pull together with him 250 men of chieftains of the congregation, chashuva people, representatives, and they're all on his team, on the bad guy's team, and they're all supporting him. Just a quick little story. They tell the story, I'm forgetting who it was. Wasn't the Stipler? One of the great Jewish leaders of not so long ago, maybe 400 or 500 years ago, even less even, where he was discussing the Korach story. And at a certain point, he shared with the people that he knows that the neshama that is in his own very body is a Gilgal, a reincarnation. And he said, I know that years ago, my soul was one of the souls that were present at the Korach story. So they asked him, do you know which team you followed? Did you follow Moshe Rabbeinu's team in your previous reincarnation? Or did you follow Korach's team? And he says, I know that at the time I was at a loss. I didn't know. It was so compelling, both sides. Moshe Rabbeinu obviously was the leader. He'd led the people out just over a year from when they left Egypt. They just had the Meraglim, the spy story we read last week. It just happened. And of course, Moshe was the leader. But on the other hand, Korach seemed to have what we would call today, everybody's equal, the communists or whatever the isms that we have. And he seemed to be coming up with a very good argument. And he himself was a great scholar, charismatic leader, and he had been creating a tremendous hype. People were buying in, and therefore he was compelling the other way. But Moshe Rabbeinu had to deal with it, because of course, if we rebel against Hashem's leadership, then we're doomed, not just in this particular area, but in everything. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu calls upon him, and he says to him, don't do this. And he says to him, you and your entire congregation should be before Hashem. Tomorrow we're going to have a standoff, and everyone should bring the Keteris, all these people who believe that they are leaders and they can do it. But what do you want? You want to call? You need to call. Yeah. Okay. So each one should bring a Keteris, and each one should try and see if they can be the nominated person. And instead, obviously, the end of the story is fire came forth from Hashem, consumed the 250 men who had offered up the incense. Perhaps this is maybe a little less known than the story of the earth opening up and swallowing them alive, but it's a big part of the story. You got to imagine 250 leaders would be a big hit and a great wake-up call. And for everyone else, it was a big deal. And then the end of the Parshah says, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, I need you to do another test. And when you take the sticks and put them into the Holy of Holies, and then the staff of whom I will choose will blossom. And then I will calm down, turn away from myself and complain to the Jewish people, which is like complaining against you enough. We need to make it very clear. And that was in the story. He placed the staffs inside the Holy of Holies. And then they came out, the blossom gave forth and sprouted buds and produced ripe almonds. So just to point out the enormousness of the miracle, you're taking a stick that had been turned into a walking stick, clearly a dead stick, but through placing it inside the Holy of Holies, it sprouted life. And overnight, it blossomed and produced ripe almonds. So it wasn't just a miracle that there was almonds hanging on the stick. The miracle was that it went through the stages of growth, where usually the tree has to blossom first and only afterwards have fruits. Those stages also took place on that stick. In other words, the miracle was like an extended miracle. It wasn't just that there was fruit on the stick. It was like almost like nature had been hyper-zoomed, can I borrow that word, through the stick and had blossomed fruits. That's part of the miracle. We're going to look at why this miracle was necessary.
Davey,
Please.
You just said there's 250 of Korach's followers.
Yes.
And how many Jewish people are there at the time? 2.5 million still?
Yes, very good. Am I hearing a question? What's the big deal? 250 out of 250 million, 2.5 million.
Exactly. What about the scenario? Just banish them, send them back to Egypt. Does God have to prove himself again? Why the big deal? It could surely with 2.5 million people, it would have taken him. I don't know. It could have taken him days, weeks, months to find out that there's 250 people not happy.
Yeah. So for starters, you know how, although they didn't have social media and stuff, but there's ways to get the word out. But the truth is, the short answer is that 250 people were the leaders of the rebellion. So 250 leaders who are leading the rebellion would certainly have a tremendous following. And the reason why it's significant to know that there's 250 leaders, because these people were supposedly Rabbonim. And you have 250 Rabbonim who are in the rebellion team. And they have the hundreds, if not thousands of people behind each one of them. These are the people who were saying that we want to be those who are going to bring the Keteres off of the incense. Everyone else was saying, you know what, they're right. We don't believe we're going to be knackers. We're not going to be the top leaders. But these 250 people were saying, no. We want to be on the new board. We want to be the new government, so to speak. We want to be, sorry. Okay. So to answer your question in short, the answer is, yeah, if it was just 250 people, then maybe you could say big deal. But A, they were leaders, and B, they had followers. And the truth is that these 250 people died and the rest of the people survived until they started complaining. And those who complained got caught up in a plague. But yeah, the short answer is that's exactly what Hashem did. Finished those off. He says, you know what? You want to have a complaint? You want to be things? And they got tribes in. But great question. I'm going to now shift away from the incense story of the 250 leaderships. After the story of Korach being swallowed alive and all the troublemakers have been wiped out, the people who are left are the 2.5 million people who haven't sinned or are not sinning right now. Yet Hashem insists on making the blossoming and the test that's going to prove once again that Aaron is correct. The reason why I point this out is because if we read the Parshah, it doesn't seem clear what the point of this test is. We've just had the earth open up and swallow someone alive. Come on, that's pretty compelling. That's pretty convincing. What's the need of the additional test, and what's this added test going to bring to the table? Also, we're going to look at why the particulars of this type of design, why the particulars of this type of proof, where you have a stick, blossom, and sprout, and almonds. What's the significance of those pointers? What are we learning from it? And we're going to try and be able to walk away, help this direct us to learning a relevant lesson. That's where we're headed right now. So if anyone's any more questions like Neville had, please do jump in at any time and speak up. I'm just going to try and put some text on the page. The first part we're going to try and answer is why there was a need for an additional test. This is a quote from the Chizkuni. And the Chizkuni writes that there was two questions. Question number one, is Aaron entitled to be the leader? Why should he be in a position no one else is? That had clearly been demonstrated by the incense test before. Only his Keteres was accepted, and the 250 other people died. In other words, don't mess. Oh, Aaron is particularly in position. But there was another question. Who's going to be the successor of Aaron? Is it possible for it to be somebody who's not of Aaron's family? Does it have to be that Aaron's son is automatically going to be the successor? Where does that come from? Why is it going to be kept within the family? Where is this uniqueness coming to his family? How dare you? Aaron might be a great guy, very nice, but why should the next president, prime minister of the leader or wherever it's going to be not come through a vote or not come by whoever's next best? Why should it be kept in the family? Why should the tribe have the rights to the leadership? And we today understand this quite clearly. In the times of the monarchs of the kings, the son of the king automatically became the king, this heir to the throne. Today we appreciate that sometimes heir to the throne isn't necessarily the next best leader. And this is normative way of thinking in today's society. And Korach was, besides for challenging Aaron himself, was also challenging the concept where Moshe was keeping it within the family. And it was for this that Hashem wanted to demonstrate an additional test. Please. Go, Malcolm.
That was a dictatorship then. It wasn't proper politics. Am I right?
Correct. The only difference is that the dictatorship wasn't being dictated by the leader. The dictatorship is that Hashem is dictating what's right and what's wrong. That's important to bear in mind. So it's not that Aaron was the dictator or Moshe was the dictator. Hashem was dictating. We're in safe hands when Hashem's dictating. As long as we're sticking to Hashem's rules and not manipulating or bending, twisting Hashem's rules to make it work for what we like it to be. So as long as Hashem's the dictator, we're in good hands. What we have to worry about is when the humans becomes the dictator. But yeah, in short, Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to prove that it's not going to be a democracy. Who's going to be Kohen Gadol is not up for grabs. And the only way to prove that is if Moshe could show that even I can't control this, because I'm also human. But as long as I'm representing Hashem, I know I'm in safe hands. What was the way he was going to do that? That was by demonstrating a miracle that would take place in the Holy of Holies. And that's why, even after the whole story of the pans of incense, he had to make another story that wouldn't just demonstrate that Aaron's Keteris was the winning Keteris, incense. He had to demonstrate somehow that the tribe of Levi has been nominated. And it's a family matter right now. It's not up for grabs anymore. Or it never was. How did he do that? By getting staffs that represented the tribes. They represent Aaron. Aaron was the leader, but his stick, his staff, had on it inscribed the tribe of Levi. and the tribe of Reuven had their staff. And thereby Hashem demonstrated that the entire tribe has been nominated. And yes, this will stay within the family because the Kohanim is a family matter. That's how Hashem demonstrated this. And that also explains the necessity for an additional test that would demonstrate another angle of the rebellion. Okay, so that's an understanding of what the lesson of the staff test is. It helps us realize that, it's not really a democracy. Some things are dictated by Hashem, and those things should be treasured the way they are, because by following that, we'll be very successful. That is the recipe for goodness in this universe. Follow Hashem's directives. At the end of the day, He is the designer of the world. He knows what's best. Let's move on to the second point, and that is, what's with the almonds? Why would it grow almonds? Perhaps it should grow grapes, pomegranates. Why? Maybe it should grow something. I think someone's calling.
Almonds grow quick. They have the intent of one of the fastest to grow.
From when they start blossoming until they become ripe, it's one of the fastest fruits. So I don't know if it's one of the fastest as in how many sets of almonds you get a year out of a tree. But from when it blossoms until it's ripened, so the ripening process is high speed with almonds. Apparently, I don't know much about gardening. I don't know much about the agriculture side of things, but Rashi brings us down. It's right here. Now, why did it bear particularly almonds? Says Rashi, that is the fruit that blossoms quicker than other fruits. Likewise, he who opposes the priesthood, his punishment comes quickly. What's the lesson of the high-speed almonds? Says Rashi, you want to know why Korach and his cronies, who were Rabbanim, Chashuv people, were brought down so quickly and so enormously. Like Neville said before, it was 250 people, big deal. Let them die out a little quietly. No. It was a massive deal. And in no time, their punishment came swiftly. That's because when you mess with Kohanim are swift. And when you deal with them and you try and mess with them, the punishment comes swiftly. And in order to emphasize that, the miracle Hashem decided to use was the miracle that involved the almonds, which I guess to people who knew agriculture, automatically registered as, this is the high-speed one. Watch out because it comes and it comes quickly. That's the idea that Rashi points out. Now, what we were going to do is discuss what's this quickliness with Kohanim. Why do Kohanim equal swift? Where is that from? And then it's going to be it's a question that we ask because we have a good answer. And the good answer is going to be there are quotes throughout the Gemara, multiple times, where there's a famous quote. We're going to see this inside the text soon. And that is, Kohanim Zrizim Heim. Kohanim are, how do you say zariz? So usually the literal translation is zariz means quick. In modern Hebrew, say zariz means speed up, do it quickly, chick-chack. It's a Hebrew phrase. But we're going to talk about what does it mean to be zariz? What does it mean to be high speed? What is the uniqueness of doing things quickly? Usually we say, I don't have time to rush. You know the quote? Why do I not have time to rush? Because when we rush, we do it almost right. And we do almost right, you end up doing it again. So the question is, what's so good about doing things quickly? What is it that sets them apart? And in order to answer this, we're going to look at different angles of where the Talmud, the Gemara, discusses the result, the speed, the alacrity, the speed of
mitzvot.
Yes, quick to do a mitzvah. Does that mean you finish it quickly? The shuls that daven quickly. You ever been to a shul where you get there and by the time you're starting, they're almost finished? And you're thinking to yourself, is this really the way to daven? How could you daven this quickly? So some shuls don't do it that way. They're quick to start. They're not quick to finish. That's a great shul. You go there, they're going to start bang on time. Not when they're going to finish, but they're going to daven nice and slow and it's enjoyable. It's a kishmat. But some shuls do it differently. They don't know what time they start, but you know what time they're going to finish. They're going to finish by X time. Is that really an ideal way to daven? Sometimes it's practically the only way to daven. If people have to get to work and people have come and on a tight schedule, in that sort of time, we have to. You know what? Sorry, 1 second. Hey Mushka, you want to use my phone? Sorry. Come over there. You can go ahead, join. You have to put in the code here, okay? Thank you. Sorry about that. Back to what we're saying here. We're asking about Kohanim being swift, Kohanim being quick, swift. What's the advantage? The short answer is going to be that it doesn't necessarily mean that they only do things very quickly, but it means they're very quick to be ready. They're always in on duty mode. They're always ready to jump in. And the result that we're talking here is that the Kohanim are the type of people who are on call all the time. That's a uniqueness. And if that's the case, that's something to be proud of, something to be aspire towards. And really, that was the job of the Kohen. The Kohen didn't get a portion in Israel because he was supposed to be a serviceman. Serviceman of Hashem means that he's constantly on the ready. Whenever something is needed in the Kodesh HaKadosh, in the Beis HaMikdash, they're supposed to be the people. And that's the result. And the other angle, or another way of explaining it, is the result doesn't just mean that they're quick to be ready and their mind's on it, but it means alacrity. They're in a state of excitement. They're passionate about what they're doing. Quickness doesn't mean that they're doing things quickly, but it means that they're doing things switched on. And they're not on overdrive, but they're on full steam every time they're doing something. There's a third explanation, and that is the competence. Competence means that the Kohanim are the type of people, when they do something, they do it properly. How many times have I tried to do something, but I haven't done the necessary preparation? Perhaps it's parenting. I should have done a bit more training before I started parenting, or maybe I should do more training, whatever else it is. If I'm going to do something, it's worth doing it all the way. And the Kohanim stand out in the sense that when they do something, they take it seriously. And when they do it seriously, they jump in it all the way. Whatever the explanation of the result is, we call it zariz, we call it quick, because the quickness we're talking about here is a quickness that connects the Kohen who's doing it with a job at hand in a way that it makes it part and parcel, one and together. They're fully engaged in what they're doing because they're ready to jump in. They're full of passion. They're doing it competently. They've done the necessary homework before they're doing it. That's an ideal state of zerizus. And since Kohanim,
Rabbi,
please.
Can I say that you prove that? You prove that.
I'll take a compliment any day. Thank you. It's definitely
true.
something to aspire to. Shekar Hashem. Thank you for the compliment. You make me feel good, but I appreciate it. I want to say that the Kohanim's job was to be leaders of the people. And what we're going to say is that right now, we're on that brink between asking ourselves, is it true? Is it fair to say that some people have it easier? The original question. Some people have it easier to do things right. Are Kohanim predisposed, preset, where they automatically have an easy time to do it right because they're Kohanim? In which sense, it's nothing to do with me and you or the rest of us, people who are not Kohanim. We don't stand a chance. Kohanim they have it easy. It's in their DNA. Or are we saying no? Kohanim trained up to become Zerizim, and we can emulate them. That's going to be the question that we're going to look at from a Torah perspective. And the difference is going to be very nice. We learn about the almond trick, the almond test. And the almond teaches us that Kohanim are high speed or engaged or switched on. How does it make us feel? Where does it put me and you, the rest of us, who aren't Aaron and his children, who had the blossoming almond demonstration on their behalf? What about everyone else? Where does it leave us? And the question, the way we're phrasing it, is from a Yiddishkeit, Talmudic, what does it say there? Discover there? Okay. Yiddishkeit perspective, an additional Torah slant. Does that teach us that we can do it? Yes. Or does it teach us that no, we should look at them and honor them and give them a kavod and respect them? But for the rest of us, we're just down in the things. Here's a few texts that back up the things that we're talking about. Beautiful discussion about whether Kohanim, halachically, have all the restrictions of non-Kohanim. There are certain laws that the Talmud says, actually, because Kohanim are Zerizim, are people with alacrity, therefore some of the restrictions that apply to other people did not apply to the Kohanim. The case in point here is when before Yom Kippur started, there would be trumpet blasts, warnings that the time of Yom Kippur is coming to announce to the people that they have to stop eating. What happens if Yom Kippur falls out on Sunday? In today's calendar, it could never happen, because that would mean that you would go from Shabbos into Yom Kippur. The calendar set up as such that if ever it would work out, then the dates would be changed, and there's an automatic update on a calendar that would come with Yom Kippur on Sunday. Yom Kippur never falls out on Sunday. But in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, it could happen that Yom Kippur would be on Sunday. Should they blow the trumpets before Yom Kippur if it's in the middle of Shabbos? Anyone who plays music should know that you're not allowed to play music on Shabbos. You're not allowed to do anything that has music. So, if you have the kids' toys that have musical, like whatever, even if it's not electrical, even if it's only mechanical, you can't play with the music side on Shabbos, because playing music on Shabbos is a rabbinic restriction. It's a rabbinic restriction that it doesn't allow us to engage with any sort of musical instrument, just because musical instruments generally could be fine-tuned, and fine-tuning is very serious. Now, anyone who's playing a musical instrument and properly playing it, fine-tunes it without thinking. If you're playing a guitar, if you're playing whatever it is, you just tune it as part of the playing. And that's a very serious prohibition. And therefore, the blanket rule is that no musical instrument is allowed. Now, in the Beis HaMikdash, the rabbinical restrictions were lifted. In other words, they could play musical instruments on Shabbos in the Beis HaMikdash. But that's because it's part of the service of the Beis HaMikdash. What happens if it's just a warning siren, the trumpet sirens? It's not part of the service of the Beis HaMikdash. Should we allow the restrictions to forbid the trumpet sounds or not? The answer is because Yom Kippur is so important to make sure people know that they have to stop eating, they would allow the trumpets to be blown as a warning. That's how important it was to make this warning siren. People relied on it. I guess in the times before they had clocks, people didn't know what time it is, and they would try and look out to see what's going on. And so a trumpet siren would be very important. I believe there are many communities still today around the world that they have before Shabbos, a pre-Shabbos warning siren. I think even here in Manchester, there's areas where they have like a big song goes on a big loudspeaker, and it lets people know that Shabbos is very near. But that sort of idea where you have a pre-highlight warning. Says the Mishnah, the warning was not for the Kohanim. Kohanim do not need warning sirens. If it was just for the Kohanim, they wouldn't have to have a warning. It wouldn't be allowed. Because Kohanim's reason. Kohanim full of alacrity. They don't need to have warnings. They get it right. These are people of competence. Why would they have a warning trumpet on Shabbos or Yom Kippur for everyone else? Only for the others. This is how the Gemara in Shabbos describes it, page 114b. That's telling us the Kohanim reason. And there we have the explanation in Rashi. What does it mean? The reason they are proficient in the laws. They've been well trained. And that's the idea of the Kohanim being Zaris. Here's the question. Can we, as regular people, expect ourselves to be competent, to be full of alacrity, or is it something you're either born with or not? Is it nature or is it nurture? That seems to be that we're saying that the Kohanim, it runs in the family, then it's nature. And if it's nature, those of us who it's not part of our nature, we can only look by and wish, okay, we're expected to honor and respect those who have it, but where does it leave us? And that's where we're going to ask ourselves, how can it be that we're learning about Kohanim, keeping it in the family, and they have this concept of Zerizut, the concept of the blossoming almonds that come fast? Where does it leave you and I? And I just want to put this into practical terms. When I personally am struggling with something, whatever it might be, fill in the blank, and I look around and I see somebody else, and I say to myself, why do they have it easy? You know what? Let them have it easy. I'm a good guy. I'm happy for them to have it easy. But the fact that they have it easy bothers me even more about myself. I'm happy for them, but it only makes me more sad and more pained about myself. Why am I struggling so much? And this is a fair question, because it's a question that comes from somebody who's looking to grow. I wish I could get it better, but every time I try, I keep losing it. In Hebrew terms, my Yetzer Hara is very strong. My Yetzer Hara, my evil inclination, is just so powerful. Why, Hashem, did you do this to me? It's not fair. Why do I have it so difficult? Look at these people who are naturally predisposed to growth, to goodness, to be able to be positive. And here I am struggling over and over again. And what we want to do is look at this idea. We've established more or less that Kohanim have an element of where there's Zariz, and that's why they are chosen or they are allocated to be these people. And we're asking ourselves, is there anything that we can learn from the Kohanim for people who are not Kohanim, for normal people, regular people? And this is where we want to go. In order to do this, we're going to look at a couple of ideas, and we're going to try and get to the bottom of where do the Kohanim get the Zarizus from, the alacrity, the competence, the commitment that they have. Where does it come from? Whether it's nature or nurture, there's something inside of them that makes them have this. We want to look at it. So for starters, we're going to look at a couple of texts that are going to imply that the chinuch, education, plays a tremendous role. How we educate ourselves, whether we're talking about how we were educated as children or as students, but more importantly, how I educate myself now that I'm an adult. I'm a responsible adult. So what environments I put myself through, where I go to find my information, where I'm reading up or watching or listening to. That sort of education that I'm self-educating will have a tremendous impact on what sort of strengths and weaknesses I have. So putting myself into an environment that's conducive to what I'm looking for is within my reach. And that's the truth, is the big part of the secret for the Kohanim. So we're going to learn that even the argument that it's nature of the Kohanim, it's only because the Kohanim have been positioned to be educators. And since Kohanim have been positioned to be educators, that's why they're constantly in the frame of mind of education. And since the constant frame of mind of education, their nature tends to be that way. So the truth is, even the argument of nature, that they're born this way, it's their DNA. Their DNA has been modified based on the education that they're involved in. Beautiful idea. It basically tells me that even though some people have it naturally, I can grow into that sort of person. I can become a changed individual, not just in what I do and how hard and how hard it's not, but I can change what sort of predispositions I have. How so? By doing what the Kohanim do. Becoming a person who's involved in educating either myself and even others, but being positioned that way. It's a beautiful insight into how we can overcome our own little challenges. Don't just work on the challenge, but work on the environment in which I live this challenge, so that the environment helps me go stronger. Beautiful idea. Let's see it inside. Here's a quote from the Rambam. No, we're going to skip that. I'm going to skip this. Here. They shall teach your ordinances to Yaakov and your Torah to Yisrael. They shall place incense before you and burnt offerings upon your altar. Okay? This is a quote. I'm not telling you where it's from. I'm asking you to tell me, who is it talking about?
Yaakov and Israel. He's talking about the Torah, the laws.
Read the entire paragraph. Tweak it up.
Yoru mishpatecha leYaakov. What, in Hebrew?
I'm asking you to read in Hebrew or English, but read from beginning to end. The end. They are going to place incense before you and burnt offerings upon your altar. Who are we talking about? Who puts incense before Hashem and burnt offerings on the altar? Kohanim.
Kohanim, yeah.
This is a quote from Moshe Rabbeinu's blessings to the tribe of Levi. I didn't want to tell you this, but you guys are guessing it. I can see from mouths that are moving on the screen. And the idea is that Moshe Rabbeinu tells the tribe of Levi, I know you guys are going to be the servicemen of Hashem, and I'm blessing you for that. But I want to point out that it's very much connected to the fact that you guys are teaching your fellow humans, your fellow Jews. And it's through you teaching your fellow Jews that you have this idea of the service, that you can serve people. Because education is key. Education doesn't just mean you're learning more data, more knowledge, more information. It's true, but it also means you're immersed, you're involved, connected. And a person who has a class of Torah that they go to didn't just learn more information and more knowledge. When I spend time learning Torah, shifting the balance of what sort of person I am. How beautiful, how tremendous. There's a few more quotes that back this up. Here's a quote from the Rambam. Why did the Levites not receive a portion in the inheritance of Israel and in the spoils of all like their brethren? Because they were set aside to serve Hashem and minister unto him and to instruct people at large in his just path and righteous judgment. As the verse states, they shall teach your ordinances of Yaakov and the Torah to Israel. He quotes that verse. Says the Rambam, this is the key to understanding the power of the Kohen. Yes, it's true, they're servicemen of the Beis Hamikdash and they do that with alacrity. The key to that is that they're involved in education and teaching themselves, others. When a person's involved in immersing himself, educating, now you're winning. Here's a quote from Rashi. They are diligent, they are well versed in all matters and know Christ's safeguards. They're written, they should teach your ordinance of Yaakov. They're involved in teaching that. Okay.
Is this the Yad HaChazaka?
Sorry?
From Yad HaChazaka?
The Yad HaChazaka is there. Rambam Yad HaChazaka explains that in there. Correct. Yad HaChazaka is the laws, and it's in the book of laws of the Rambam where he describes it.
I've got a question.
Please.
Right. Okay. The Kohanim were the leaders, and being a Levi, we're supposed to attend to the Kohanim. But why haven't the Leviim been given other specific jobs like teaching people?
So the truth is that the entire tribe of Levi were teachers. And when we say the Leviim don't have the job of teaching people, the Leviim were working in a team with the Kohanim. So the way the Torah describes it is that the Kohanim have responsibilities and the Leviim are there to back them up. So the example, the Kohanim aren't doing everything the Kohanim was supposed to do today either. I should be telling myself. But the way we see it in Shul is that the Leviim help the Kohanim get the job done, like when they wash their hands, helping the Kohen be in a position to do it. But it's more that's more like a metaphor almost. It's a indicator, it's a symbol that the Leviim are supporting the support network and support the Kohanim in this tremendously important job. I want to just point out like this. What we said so far is that we asked the question, is it nature or nurture? And now we're saying that regardless if it's nature or nurture, even the nature can be repositioned. How so? By immersing ourselves in an environment, in a mindset, and that is getting ourselves involved in education. Educating ourselves and educating others. What I want to point out now is that actually the alacrity, the speed, the connection that we get involved is definitely not limited to Kohanim. Although the Kohanim were expected or predisposed to this sort of excitement and this sort of connection, this is something that everybody can be a part of. Where do we see this? The answer is going to be from the very first Jew. The very first Jew.
So
The first Jew in history, even though he was before Matan Torah, he's the first of the forefathers, is Abraham Avinu. Abraham, our forefather. Abraham, our forefather, went through 10 tests. He had to leave his home from a very young age, threw himself into the furnace of Hashem, all sorts of things he had to do. What was the greatest of his 10 tests? The greatest of his 10 tests was he was challenged to offer his son up as an offering, as a burnt offering on the Mizbeach. And he was willing. Last second, Hashem says, no, take him off the altar, the Akedah. He takes his son Yitzchak, who he had waited so many years for. He wasn't a young boy. He was 37 and a half years old. And they walked together without asking any questions, put him on the altar. The last second, Hashem said, no, take him off. And that was the 10th test. It was after this that Hashem promised him all the good things. But the Akedah was the big deal. And the question is asked, he was willing to sacrifice one son on behalf of Hashem. Throughout the ages, how many people died for the name of Hashem? How many people gave up more than one son?
Kiddush Hashem.
Hashem. Throughout our ages, we've had people giving up the entire family, themselves, their children, in the name of Hashem. Dying al Kiddush Hashem, that's the biggest test. And Avraham Avinu is the hero because did Akedah, what's the big deal? More so. Avram Avinu, Hashem comes to you and says, please do this for me. How many Yiddish people gave up their lives and they didn't have no revelation, God speaking to them and asking for a personal favor? They heard about it from their father, heard about it from the father. It's 2,000 years after the giving of the Torah and they're still willing to die for Hashem. Aren't they greater than Avram Avinu? Why is Avram Avinu's claim to fame that when Hashem asked him to do something, he said yes? Is that the real big deal? Says the Alter Rebbe and Tanya, actually, you know what the big deal is? The alacrity. Of course, it's a big deal to offer up a person's life in the name of Hashem. It's kind of offset by the fact that he was personally approached by God himself. Still big, but that's not what makes it the big deal. What makes the big deal is that Avram Avinu, without blinking an eye, woke up early in the morning and didn't stop for a second. He got a command, he jumped on it. Jumped on it, not only quick on the clock, but full of passion, full of confidence, and then fully engaged alacrity, zrizos that we're talking about here. But he did it and did it with excitement. With excitement, just like when a person has an exciting thing, you don't push the snooze button and stay in bed. I'll do it soon. But if someone's doing something exciting, you get up and do it right away. That excitement is what Avraham Avinu displayed at the Akedah. And that is noteworthy. The alacrity. And Avraham Avinu is the forefather of each and every one of us. And he gave us the ability that everything that we're doing, we can do with that sort of engagement, the excitement, the alacrity that comes with doing the mitzvah, we have. So although the tribe of Levi and the particular Kohanim were known to have this, what we're learning today is that it's this sort of excitement that's going to be the game changer in everything that we're doing. So getting ourselves excited about what it is that we want to achieve, what it is that we want to do, is the key to learning from a Kohanim. And what we're learning today is that although the Kohanim, their symbol is the almond, that they work with excitement and speed, that symbol tells us that the Kohanim are special, but also tells us that we can learn to be like the Kohanim. Just like they were involved in educating themselves and others, and through that they built excitement for what they were doing, we can do the same. We can find excitement, and the key to that is to be like a Kohen, that is to be an educator immersed in what we're doing. How powerful that we can understand ourselves. We can recognize that I have a challenge and that it's hard for me, but we also have a recipe to work towards, to empower myself to build excitement. And I need to build excitement because that's the key. How can I build excitement? By being immersed, not just in the action, but being immersed in the education around it, that I'm putting myself in a position like that. I want to point out, more so than being immersed on my own, being immersed in sharing the excitement is even more powerful than just learning about it myself. So instead of just going to a shir, I share what I learned with somebody else. Not just what I learned, not just what I learned, but I share also the feelings I've developed, the excitement that I have, because the more I'm sharing it, the more I'm immersing myself in that. And thereby, I can build the excitement. A, because it's going to help me, and B, because if it's really good, let somebody else benefit. This week, as we said, Wednesday night, Thursday is going to be the third of Tammuz, the art type, the Rebbe. The Rebbe taught us this over and over again. By sharing with somebody else, everybody wins. Sharing with somebody else, everybody wins. There's a beautiful talk. We were going to read it, but we're not going to. Text 16, if I can quickly bring it up, in which the Rebbe talks to staff members who were going to do a summer camp. And he was telling them that because they're in a position where they can help somebody else, and they have, in America, it's 8 weeks, 9 weeks of summer camp. He says to them, do yourself a favor, don't push it off. Don't say to yourself, yeah, I'll share the excitement with everybody. I've got 8 weeks to do it. Today, do it now. Because if I do it now, that's the rocket power that's going to send me, it's going to set me going. If I'm excited about it and I share that excitement, I'm immersed, they're immersed, and it's through that education where we can get things going. In short, what we learned today is that yes, it's true, the Kohanim have an edge. We can have that same edge. What's the key? The key is to educate, be immersed in sharing it, and the excitement is built through that. Hashem should bench each and every one of us that we should be able to have the excitement, the passion for the good things we know we're doing, and thereby be able to grow even more. We shouldn't keep it to ourselves. We should continue sharing it. I want to put one thing on the screen before we finish. I know we're up to the end of the lesson, and that is that this Gimel Tammuz, we're running a giving day for Chabad. If you do see it, I'm going to ask you to get involved and also to share it with others, because it's a special opportunity for us to be able to make what's so good even better. And the way it works is that if more people give whatever they can, then on this day, on the 3rd of Tammuz, the mitzvah of tzedakah, which is a tremendous chutz in itself, especially to the institutions that were set up by the Rebbe on the day of his yahrzeit. It's a tremendous opportunity to be able to further that. So please do give if you can, and also share it with your friends when you get the messages and get the calls or whatever it will be. This is this coming Wednesday night and Thursday. I want to wish everyone a wonderful week. And as we say, a good chodesh, a blessed month. And we should only have good news on your personal life, in your spiritual life, in your life full of passion and excitement. Should be a best week. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer.
Bracha. We need your bracha.
Hey, we're talking about Kohanim. How can I not? וידבר אדוני על משה לאמור, דבר על הרם רבנו לאמור, כסבורך בני ישראל לאמור להם, יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יראה אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוני פניו אליך, וישמך שלום, ושם משמיע בני ישראל, ואני אברכם. You should be benched, you should be blessed with all the good things your heart desires and more. Good week.
Thanks so much, Levi. Thank you.
Be well. Sei gesund.
Thanks. Sei gesund.
Take care.
Bye.
Rabbi, there's no shiur then on Wednesdays, though.
There's going to be a program. I'm going to send out email at this time. There's going to be a program on the Wednesday night, a bigger shiur.
Okay. Looking forward.
And then again on Thursday, there's going to be a 2-hour program. But I'm not preparing that. It's the big hitters that are preparing like a proper, good, exciting shiur to work together with this. I'll send you out an email about it. Please God. Have a good week, Jeff. A good chodesh.
Yeah, good. Many thanks.
Well done. All the best. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
כל טוב. שבוע טוב, בשורות טובות.
Amen.